bring the ecosystem back and
Sure. That's good. And
Trees and plants give us oxygen.
oxygen, perfect. Yep. Okay, so let's jump into the presentation and we'll discuss as we go through. So this is an image of more of a sandhill ecosystem dominated by what kind of tree do you think? Correct. Yep. And so this is about the size that we planted today. Maybe this is a little larger, but they can get to be, 100 foot plus. And then when they get really tall, they kind of flatten out on the top. And anyway, it's a fantastic, thriving ecosystem, and we're going to get into that a bit. But what do you see down below here as an understory?
A lot of brown things.
A lot of needles. Yep. And then what else? Yes.
there aren't really any like big bushes and stuff, but more like just little wildflowers and grasses.
Yep, wildflowers and grasses, yep. Actually, the longleaf pine ecosystem, this understory, has been compared to the diversity of a rainforest. And you've heard that rainforests and tropical areas have a high number of species of plants. Well, this understory in this longleaf pine ecosystem has a very high number of species if you were to take a little transect and count the number of different species. So do I do that clicking, or did you?
I'll do it for you right now.
Okay, where did that little thing go?
That pen.
It's
Jacob took it? Yep.
Jacob.
Okay. Okay. So this is also a longleaf pine dominated ecosystem, but it's a slightly different variety. We have different varieties of ecosystems, but that still maintain a dominant longleaf pine tree canopy. So what do you see down here as the understory? Yes.
It has more palm trees that
Right.
are really young,
Well-
and again a lot of the pine needles.
Mm-hmm. And you have a thought?
There's lots of palmetto bushes down
Exactly. Yep. So this kind of longleaf pine ecosystem that was dominated with a lot of these saw palmettos was more of what we classify as a flatwoods pine ecosystem, and that's probably what was in this area of Gainesville, was maybe a little bit more towards this type of ecosystem with the flatwoods. And you can see how long these pine needles are, whether they're brown or green. Okay, you recognize this photograph?
Yes.
Tower Bishop.
Yep, so this is your property line right here. So we just planted these pine trees up in the northeast corner. What else do you see in this photograph around your school?
Trees.
Trees. A lot of houses, a lot of buildings, a lot of roads. But it wasn't always like this. We didn't live always in a neighborhood per se. This is zoomed out. We can see the major roads and more grid system of the roads and the houses and the trees. But we used to live in, this is as far back as I can get for an aerial photograph, 1938. But even prior, this area wasn't always a neighborhood, it was an ecosystem. And what dominated this part of a lot of Florida, including around Gainesville, was a longleaf pine dominated ecosystem. So what we did today was reintroduce a few individuals into that had been removed. In this photograph, you can see there's the city of Gainesville, and this is a lot of agricultural pasture land where people cleared a lot of the vegetation but left some of the remaining pine trees, but probably had cattle running around here. And so that's kind of what the northeast part of Gainesville looked like in '38. Now, I mentioned that Florida and Gainesville, being around here, had a lot of longleaf, but actually this longleaf footprint for the whole entire ecosystem covered from Texas all the way to Virginia down to Florida, and it was about 90 million acres in total where we had a lot of the tree canopy dominated by longleaf pine. Currently, we have less than really 2% of healthy longleaf pine ecosystem left. So that's a minuscule amount. So you can see that we have adjusted our landscape so dramatically that, you know, whatever 2% would be a polygon of that would be minuscule compared to what that footprint is. So we've transformed the southeast United States at this point. And so by planting trees, whether it's in your neighborhoods or in forests of this species specifically of longleaf pine rather than slash or loblolly, we're reintroducing it because a lot of wildlife depended on this tree and this ecosystem.
Question for you guys: why do you think so many of these trees disappeared? But why? Like, can you imagine? Like, why did it go from 90 million to 3 million? What's